Welcome to Selling in the Motor Trade, in association with Automotive Management and SMT. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips, and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett, or some of you might already know me as Skippy. And firstly, I want to say thank you for taking the time to tune in. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Selling in the Motor Trade. Today, we're going to talk about vehicle health checks. In fact, not just vehicle health checks or electronic vehicle health checks. We're going to be talking about generically upselling in the service departments. Or if you're in the UK, listen to this, upselling in the after sales department. So the people who are listening to this in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, in the UK, it's often called an after sales department in the motor trade. Now, I left Australia in 95 and I'd never heard of an after sales department. It was just called either fix operations or service or parts or something like that. And the word after sales, that in itself, sometimes I think it's worded wrong because after means following in time, after something's happened, after sales. But we so often say that, how much selling do people do in the after sales department or the service department compared to our car sales people? It's huge. So listen, that's what we want to talk about, upselling in the service department. And today we've got the sales director of symcotraining, Darren Bedford, joining us. Welcome along, Darren.
Hi, Simon. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, now listen, Darren, we have a joke all the time about vehicle health checks or electronic vehicle health checks. And we've met plenty of people over the years who have said, hey, I invented vehicle health checks. How many people do you reckon you've met now who've said they've invented them?
Yeah, I've lost count. The first person that implemented the paper-based system. Yeah, too many to mention.
Yeah, so listen, vehicle health checks or electronic vehicle health checks, we saw that most dealerships now have some sort of electronic vehicle health check system. So we want to talk about how do we get the best out of them? And the big question, how much time does it take to do it? What sort of return on investment are we going to get from them? So we want to explore really what some of your tips and ideas to get the best out of it. So I suppose the first question, big question, and this is loaded, obviously, because we're a sales training company. We know that you get value out of this. But is there value in a vehicle health check or electronic vehicle health check system?
Simple answer is, of course, yes, there is. The reality of having that system in place is, in many operations, it just doesn't work as seamlessly as it needs to for everybody to get value out of it. Worked in an environment where everybody embraces that process and is behind that process, undoubtedly it does. Unfortunately, though, it's one of those operations that involves many people, and you'll know the expression that I'll often use, Simon, where it's handing a baton over to somebody else, and every time we go to hand a baton on to somebody else to look after something in a process, there's an opportunity for that baton to drop. No matter how good we are at it. And of course, what it does is it involves every single department in that after sales arena. And it involves multiple people in those after sales departments for it to run smoothly.
Well, okay, playing devil's advocate now. A technician has to do the video. If we're doing the video as part of a see it now video, something like that. It takes time to do that. Someone needs to be paid. Yep. That video gets sent through to a customer, okay? Service advisor has to actually make the call. I know that some of the systems that people are using out there, the customers say, yep, I'll go ahead and do that straight away. I don't know how often that works. Do we ever look at the amount of time it takes? And actually, how often do we see people saying, oh, I've just got to do these see it now videos at the end of the day? You might want to tell us about the story of that dealership you're in at the end of the day where a service advisor was doing a whole lot of videos at the end of the day.
Yeah, I've got to say, I think it centers on that old expression, you get in life what you focus on. I remember calling into a dealership, and at the end of the day, one of the service advisors was working late. And I just asked him what he was up to. And he said, I'm sending out my See It Now videos. Why? You know, what are you sending them out for now? You know, oh, surely all the work's come in and gone out. Oh, no. What happens at the end of the night? Head office register how many we've sent out versus how many cars came in. So if I don't get them sent out today, they won't be on today's numbers. And it's like, oh, we've come up with this fantastic workaround that's just giving us no benefit at all. And of course, I think sometimes we all need to just sort of take a step back and look at what we're actually doing here and understand why we're doing it. But I just want to pick up on one point you said there, Simon, about the video, because it's a really, really good point. It's something that came along a little bit later than the vehicle health check. And I think a lot of people, anticipation now, we're much more online trading as human beings. You know, we're purchasing things that I remember sort of probably 20 years ago, it would have been fairly strange to maybe order a CD for some of those people. And now it's second nature. We're downloading it in USBs and things like that. So we have moved on phenomenally with it. But interestingly enough, the rates of people physically accepting over that without any intervention from a service advisor are still very, very small in our industry. Yeah, people just sort of saying, oh, I had a look at the video. Yes, go ahead with that operation. What I've come across now a lot in my visits out to dealerships is service advisors that send the video out just haven't necessarily sort of thought of the ramifications of what's going on. And what I mean by that is they'll send the video out and they'll be waiting for sort of half an hour, giving the customer the opportunity, and that old magic little system where you can go on and check whether they viewed it and, oh, he's had a look, that means it should be good. You know, we get fixated with that kind of data that comes back. But the reality of it is, if you think about that car, if that vehicle health check has been done at the right time and the video's been done at the right time and the car's sitting on the ramps and your technician there is waiting for approval for that work, we don't have half an hour that we can allow that customer to have a look at it. What we often do with those guys is say, you know, pick up the phone, speak to the customer immediately and just say, hello, Mr. Bowkett, your car's in with us today, as you know. What we're going to do, what we said we were going to do is complete a vehicle health check. We've managed to do that and get that done for you. Great news is most of the items are green. They're good to go. Listen, there's an amber item. It's a tyre. I'll talk to you about that when you come down later on. But there's a red item that we need to get sorted straight away. And the great news is I've actually got it on video from the technician. So we've sent that through to you. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, it doesn't matter, but it will reconfirm what I'm about to talk to you about. And that way you can make a phone call instantly and you don't lose that half an hour. Personally, I talk about the magic golden hour. You know, when you think about how long those cars can spend in your dealership now on the ramp for a service, often we're under an hour for that service. Now, if that car's only in there for under an hour and we have upsell work, what's likely to happen unless we do this very, very streamlined is we'll get the upsell, we'll go out to the technician and say, great news, Fred, we've got the work, it's been approved. And Fred will look us in the eyes and go, I've just put that car back together and put it out in the car park. So Fred's now got to go back out, bring the car back in, and all of that efficiency that could be in the system has disappeared.
Yeah. So I suppose if I'm reading you right there, let's not wait for the video to do the selling for us. It's not that you're anti-videos at all, but you're saying don't hold off, don't wait there. Still send it through afterwards. Am I
absolutely spot on? I mean, the video builds trust. It builds, you know, a relationship with the customer that they can see. I'll give you a great example of how it can build trust. I've often seen people communicate that a tyre needs replacing, and sometimes that can be because there's a piece of metal in the tyre, for instance. A video of that is sensational because imagine that call goes into a customer. It's your car, you're the customer now, not the service advisor. You get a call and somebody says, oh, your car's come into us and it's got some metal in the tyre. Are you possibly going to think that maybe it's picked that up in the dealership? You know, you don't know anything about it. You've not witnessed the tyre going down or anything like that. So your first thought might be, well, hold on a minute. You've got screws at your dealership. Maybe you've driven over one of those screws. However, when you show that picture, that video, and you can see that the head's worn down, it's really embedded in the tyre, that picture's painting 1,000 words for your explanation of it. And that's the real power of that video is to back up what that service advisor is going to talk about. But if we just leave it for an acceptance over the system, our red work will drop off a cliff. And we've seen this in many, many dealerships, not through any fault, just not really necessarily thinking it all through, and therefore building in that, oh, I'll let that, let's just see if that customer has a look at it first, because then it'll be easier to talk to them. Don't engage immediately and use the video as a reference point to back up everything that you've said, because you'll build yourself brownie points on that video coming through and then explaining and then showing all of those pictures to customers. So there's nothing to be lost by doing it that way around. There's all to be gained.
Well, can I just explore this then? Is a service advisor sending the video through and hoping magically someone's going to click yes, accept, I want you to do that for the video, because they're nervous about selling? They're nervous about how to ask for the business. They're nervous about overcoming the objections. Or do you think they're just busy? Because, a service advisor, is it the busiest job in a dealership? I think it must be some point there. What do you think it is? Is it a mixture, a combination of both?
I think like most of these things, it's a combination of all sorts of items, as you say. It starts and centers around a robust system in the first place. The logic here is that if we put numerous cars into the workshop first thing in the morning, we're going to have some red work to get in contact with people, and we're going to have a number of those all at one time. Now, some dealerships operate one person's responsibility to get into touch with those individuals. Other people, have the service advisors looking after their own customers. And there's no right or wrong. You can operate whatever system you want, but it has to be robust enough to be able to deal with it. One of the things I love about a McDonald's setup, and I'm not trying to turn us into a McDonald's setup here, but one of the things I do love about it is if you drive past the drive-through there at 1 o'clock in the morning to get yourself a burger, there's perhaps one person serving and one person cooking. Mm-hmm. So there's a list of duties. It's fairly self-explanatory. If there's one cooking and one serving, you've got to do everything. But that same drive-through later on in the day, midday, at lunchtime, might have 5 people working in that area. Now, if 5 people are working in that area, they've each got their duties laid out. If we've got 5 people working in there, one guy might just be on drinks, one guy might just be on food preparation, one guy's only doing the headset and that's all he's focused on doing, one guy might be taking the money. So there's a sort of the duties are shared out, if you like, in accordance to how busy they are. So that's an area to check in the first place. If you all of a sudden you're inundating your workshop controller and he's unlikely to get through to all of those people that he needs to, we're probably missing opportunities. Dare I say it can even go down to something as straightforward and as simple as the number. Have we got the number right? And the way we get around that, years ago, again, we used to say, hey, listen, how can we get hold of you? What's the best number? Or is this your mobile? We've gone much, much further than that now. The phrase that I would use on the telephone now when the customer books in for their telephone number is, Simon, while your car's in with us today, we'll definitely need to speak to you and just run you through that vehicle health check. Hey, what's the best way of getting hold of you today? Because Simon might have a mobile phone number. He might have an email address. He might have access to those, or he might not. And that might not be the same as the last time he came in. Because if he's unable to take a mobile phone call, I'm better off knowing now, because I can make arrangements either to contact maybe a relation that can give me the approval, or maybe he can say, I can look at a quick text and give you an okay on something over the text. But there's no point phoning me because I'm going to be in meetings most of the day. So I genuinely believe it changes each time we have contact with those customers. So just because we've had a mobile number in the past and it works, we might not be able to get the instantaneous answer that we need unless we've teed that customer up in the morning that we will be contacting them and ask them what's the best method to get hold of them.
Okay, Darren, let me ask you, you're a service manager listening to this, or maybe a dealer principal, and you're wondering about, okay, is my process robust? Now, giving some broad strokes here, because it's going to be hard for you to go into detail on everything there, but what should they look for a robust process on upsell? We're talking about video and vehicle health checks and electronic vehicle health checks. some people might be listening to this and they don't have an electronic vehicle health check, still doing it manually. Granted, I'm sure they're probably going to be limited. Most will have some sort of electronic vehicle health check. But can you talk us through, when do we introduce it? When does it start? So many times I hear the upsell call go in, and the first time the customer's heard that's going to be is when the call comes through. So can you give us some broad strokes of what someone should look for a robust system, from your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, if you're going to operate a robust system for your vehicle health check process, then you need to be talking to every single customer that comes in, not just saying today we're going to be doing a complimentary vehicle health check, but we can lay the groundwork straight away. We can be with our service advisors there saying, Simon, thanks for booking your car in. We've done all of the bits and pieces that we need. Just to let you know of one thing there, what we'll be doing is we'll be doing a complimentary vehicle health check. Now, listen, most of the items should be in green, they're good to go. If we identify anything that's amber, what we're doing is we're just letting you know that that might not make it to its next service. But listen, if there's any red work, I'll be straight on the phone to you, Simon, because we need to get that sorted out today while the car's in with us. Is that okay with you? Now, of course, that's going to be okay with the customer because they haven't got any red work at this stage, but it's firmly communicated how our system works in a nice, straightforward method. And of course, the vehicle health check call that you follow up with is simply a reverse of that, just refreshing that customer using colors. You know how mine works. The minute you mention green, I know what green is. Yep. Amber, I know what amber. Red, right, there's a red item. We do have to sort that out. Some of your sort of acute listeners there earlier when I said about, hey, listen, if there's an amber item, I'll talk to you about that later. When we were doing it a little bit earlier, I did say, an amber tire, I would show as a service advisor how honest I was. If a tire's amber because it's only got 4 mil left of tread, I'm not going to try and sell that tire to a customer. So I might just let that customer know when they come in to collect that vehicle, it's one that we need to watch. Yep. Okay, and that builds trust, but it also builds clarity in how the system works. If your service advisors are trying to sell amber work and they're trying to sell red work, there's a mismatch of information going on here for a customer. It needs to be clear, defined lines. Amber is something that we're letting you know might not make it to its next service. Now, there may be occasions where somebody decides that it's better to do that repair now, although it's amber, say something like brake pads. Maybe I'd prefer to do it early just to save me coming back into the dealership later on in the year. So we have to give it as a choice, but amber should be given as a choice. Red, in our own mind, should be work that needs doing today. And interestingly enough, when I run courses on this and I say to the service advisors, if red, in our expert opinion, is dangerous, an MOT or NCT failure, or it needs attention straight away, if that's the clarification of red work, what percentage of red work should we expect to sell? And you know what? 99 times out of 100, everybody says 100%. Yep. I wouldn't set that as your target, but it's right. If you've got the system robust and working that way, red work is just work that we should do. We're the experts in this. Yep. I wouldn't take my parachute in to be repaired, and the guy said, hey, listen, you really ought to get those strings re-sewn or something like that. And I go, sure, they'll be all right. You're the expert, but, I know better, don't I? It wouldn't work like that. We need that clarity of how the system works. If I was the manager, just to handle that point that you were talking about there, I would be looking and guys, you can go and check this out by telling everybody that you're going to be looking at it and all the rest of it, or you can just go and check a few of those things. Have a look at your technicians. If the car's coming in and the technician's dropping the oil and starting the service, and he's not getting the vehicle health check through to the parts department for sort of half an hour, 45 minutes in some cases that we can see, then you're not going to have a robust process. If it's going straight and they're more focused on dealing with the body shop up the road, that they're doing parts panels at sort of near cost, and they're more interested in servicing them than they are in servicing your back counter. So it might be sitting there in a tray for a long period of time before it's priced and moved on. Likewise, if it's priced and moved on very quickly, if it's going to the service advisor, but they're either not very good at selling it, or they're not giving it the focus as in they're jumping straight on it, again, it's going to affect your both morale in the process, because obviously if you keep identifying stuff and none of it gets sold, what ends up happening is people then start pulling back on what they identify. So Again, often I hear this with a measurement. Oh, I achieved 70% conversion on red work. Okay, fantastic. But 70% of what? What do we identify as the first critical touch point? If you're identifying £10 of red work and you're converting 70%,
Yep.
It's not worth having. These are the little things that I would look at. The other thing I would look at is how long your average time of that vehicle spends on the ramp. So if you look at hours per job card as a measurement, that's a really good indicator as to how long that car's physically spending on your ramp. Therefore, how much time you have with that little clock of I need to be getting all of those little processes that we just talked about done and completed before that car's boxed up and put back outside. And again, another point I would make is if you are operating a proper, robust vehicle health check process, you have to factor time into your diary for it. If you genuinely only have 60 hours available today and you book 60 hours of 1 hour jobs, you are going to become a really, really busy little site, okay? But you're not going to be making good money out of that because you've got no ability to take the upsell work on board there unless it absolutely has to be done. What we're talking about here is a red work process that actually gives us the ability, the time factored in to be able to sell that work and complete that work in the most efficient way while it's in your workshops on the ramps,
Yeah, I suppose it's there's a few things I want to bring up there. There's a question. There's a great after sales trainer in the UK called Pete Turner. Pete did some work for Mercedes. I absolutely love him. And he would talk about vehicle health checks. My concern is, and I don't want to put words into Pete's mouth, but sometimes are we pushing people to the Freds in a shed after the warranty period because we're just offering people every single thing? And what I picked up on you was that transparency. If it's at 4 millimeters on a tire, telling people that, hey, listen, this is not going to make your next scheduled service. Let's not try and sell absolutely everything because surely we are pushing people to the independence afterwards.
Well, we should never be concerned about deferring work there if we've had that conversation. As I said, the way I would present, say, for instance, amber brakes, because I work for long periods within the commercial service environment, and I can tell you now straight away, if those pads were sort of 65, 70% worn, they get them done because the vehicle is worth far more to have it on the road than it is back in the service department. Again, I think sometimes we forget how, I don't mean this in an unkind way, but it is quite an involved process when you book your car in for a service. Yes. You need to arrange for your partner to pick you up. You might need to bring your license in for a loan car.
No, COVID-19. We don't have loan cars at the moment because of COVID.
But in those days where we did, we divert past that on the way in, or the old, what I used to call the double cars. So somebody's followed you in from work. One parks up, one turns around, and they're ready to sort of get out of there straight away. So all of these things that are sort of kind of actions that happen in order for me to service my car, potentially if somebody says, hey, listen, put those brake pads in while it's in with you today, and it feels like my choice, and it's put across to me as my choice, I'm probably even more likely to say, you know what, do it. Than I am if I felt that somebody was trying to force work on me that didn't actually need to be done.
That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, symcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn. Thank you.